Hey guys, it's Miss Thurston. I wanted to leave you a little bit of a video while I was at a workshop today, so that way we can continue our unit on close reading. You're going to need to get out your interactive notebook, the passage on a Connecticut Yankee, in King Arthur's Court, and the observation sheet. Now, if you're in blocks 1 and 3, that was given to you yesterday, but if you're in block 2, you did not get those due to a shortened class period. So those are on the front table, and directions were left to you in Google Classroom to get those. So materials managers, I hope that you were helping your table get those. Captains, make sure that you are coordinating all of that effort. The steps for today include I want you to reread that passage by yourself. And on your observation sheet, the only things that I want you to fill out right now before you take notes in your interactive notebook is to answer question number 2. And I want you to ask yourself, what is this passage mainly about? In other words, what is the main idea of this passage? So, in one sentence, after you reread this passage, I want you to try to give me the main idea of this passage. Now, I know that this was a struggle for us. According to the data of our benchmark and some of our other testing. But again, I really want you to try to, in your own words, give me the main idea of this passage. So pause the video for just a moment. And for number 2 on your observation sheet, after you reread this passage to yourself, what in one sentence, what is the main idea of A Connecticut Yankee in King Arthur's Court by Mark Twain? So write that down and then continue on with the video. Okay, I'm hoping that after you've paused the video and now have unpaused it, that this is the observation sheet that you answered question number 2 on. So right here is where you should have written a one sentence main idea. Okay, now I know what you're thinking. All right, old lady, you did not need to write that out for us. You did not need to spell it out for us. But remember, I'm not here. I'm at a workshop. And I'm counting on you to have this done so that when I get back, we can just jump right in to the other parts of not only this observation sheet, but continuing our lesson. So if this is not done, we are going to be further and further behind. So please have this done. Keep it in a safe place. I am not going to be able to print much more for you. Please do not lose it. And you know the ones that I am talking to. Please don't make me call you out on a video form, because once it's on the internet, it's forever. Please remember that. All right, guys. So now put this observation sheet to the side and get out your interactive notebook. Remember that stuff we glued in. So turn to assignment number 9 if you're in blocks 1 and 2, assignment number 10 if you're in block 3. We are going to fill in those notes about close reading because I want to make the case on why we are doing this. What is the point of doing close reading? What is it? Why should we need to do this? So if you will bear with me, I will take you through the justification of close reading. And I hope that you see that by the end of this, close reading is going to be your best friend and your best bet to see your reading scores grow. The majority of you said I wasn't happy with my benchmark score. Well, I want to help you with that. I want to see you grow. I want you to be happier with your benchmark score. Even if you were happy with your benchmark score, didn't you and I have a conversation that said we need to get you one or two more points, one or two more questions answered? Well, guess what? Here's the way to do it. So if you stick with me, like I promised you during that conversation, I will get you there. And here is one way to do it. Are you with me? Are you with me? All right. Stick with me. Get your notes out. Let's rock and roll. We're going to talk about close reading and annotating. Studies have shown that people who think about their thinking, metacognition, and who dive into their reading dramatically improve their test scores. And those who use annotation symbols, those who highlight, mark up their reading, dramatically improve their comprehension and reading skills. They can also go back into their text more easily when they're answering their questions. And that in turn improves their test scores. Guys, I don't do things just for funsies. You know that about me. So if I didn't believe in this technique, I would not waste our test time, our precious class time with this. So if you will stick with me, this will work for you. And again, it's just one way that we are going to improve your comprehension. So what is close reading? Close reading is thoughtfully and actively reading and analyzing a complex text for better understanding. Well, wait a minute. What are the verbs there? Thoughtfully, actively reading and analyzing. Reading and analyzing. So what does it mean to analyze? It means to look at, take apart, and examine. So I want you to remember that for when you're analyzing something. You're looking at it and examining it. When you are analyzing a text, you're looking at it from all sides. You're diving deep into that text. That is going to dramatically improve your comprehension. I'm not saying you have to know every nuance of that text, but you need to know it enough so that you can really understand what that question and what that text is asking of you to know. Because if you're just reading, but you're not reading it thoughtfully, you are not getting what the test is asking of you. So what does it mean to annotate? Annotate is writing responses and comments on the text or on a post-it note. Well, I know what you're going to say. Miss Thurston, the test is given on a computer. How am I supposed to write on a computer? All I'm given is the highlighter tool. Okay, I know that, guys. I'm not that clueless. But what is given to you every single test. Okay, I know 7 of you said it out loud. A scrap sheet of notebook paper or a blank sheet of paper. Why can't you write notes on that? Why can't you highlight? Why can't you use your highlighter tool and a sheet of paper at the same time? What's stopping you from writing all over that scrap sheet of paper? We're going to practice with Post-its during our novel unit because we're not allowed to write in the books, especially since we borrowed them from another school. And that is actually going to be the foundation of us practicing for when we're not technically allowed to write on our computer screens for our EOG. That skill is going to easily translate into our EOG skills. Guys, this is going to work for you. Trust me on it and hang with me. So what exactly should I do to annotate? Well, in order to improve your skills, the very first thing that you should do is number those paragraphs. Remember on the EOG, they're going to number the important ones, especially the ones that they're going to ask you questions on. So why can't you do that when you're reading a passage? Go ahead and number those paragraphs right off the bat. Then it doesn't hurt to stop and summarize every once in a while. And don't just stop and summarize at the end of a passage. Stop and summarize every couple of paragraphs. Because if you're not stopping every couple of paragraphs to summarize what you've just read, by the time you get to the end of that passage, you are going to be completely lost. I have the 2-3-2 rule. 2 paragraphs, then 3, then 2. Because I have to give myself breaks. That's going to stop me from having mental fatigue. Guys, even a good reader like me, who enjoys reading as well, gets tired after a while. And the EOG test is long. And I've talked to some of you about this. It doesn't hurt to stop and breathe. And stopping to summarize is one way to stop and breathe. We're going to practice that. And I think when you see me demonstrate this, you'll also see that it really does help with your comprehension. Okay, this next tip might seem a little silly, but it really does work. Ask questions of the text. It doesn't hurt to write down a question that you might have because it often will pop up as a question at the end of the passage. Ask questions like, what does that word mean? Where did he come from? And often it'll also be answered later in the passage. When you're doing also group discussions, those are notes to you or to yourself that you can ask your group mates and say, hey, did you have a question about that? They can also serve reminders to yourself about things that you have to look up later or perhaps ask your teacher about. So, asking questions of the text or about the text and writing them in the margins, there is absolutely no shame in that. One of the first things that you need to do is make some inferences about the narrator in your story. By making inferences about your narrator, that is going to give you some insights into your author. By making insights into your author, it'll also give you some insights into your author's purpose. Not only into your author's purpose, but also your author's tone and attitude. If you're by looking into your narrator, Your narrator is often the character that your author most identifies with because that's the person he chose to tell his story, especially if it's a work of fiction. Because the author generally identifies most with the narrator of the story, you're going to be able to tell a lot about the rest of the story. So make some inferences about that narrator. Does that narrator know a lot? Is he omniscient? Is he a reliable narrator? Does he have a bias? What is that narrator's character like? And if we know a lot about that narrator, we can also tell a lot about the author himself. So get to know that narrator and you'll get to know that author. Well, there it is again. The central idea and the main idea, including its supporting details. Central idea, of course, is for your informational text. It's for your informational text, and your main idea is for your dagnabbit, it's for your fiction or your literature. But it's also those supporting details that help develop the main idea or the central idea. You have to take note of those. And remember the steps that we went through over and over again in order to find that central or main idea. What is the topic that keeps coming up? And can you develop that topic into a sentence? Because a topic is one word, a main idea is a sentence. And where do we find the topic or main idea? Usually at the beginning or the end of a passage. So that's where you need to focus. Zero in on that, see if you can find it, and in a fiction passage, can you summarize it into one sentence? That takes some skill and some work, but you guys, even though you guys struggled with it, you were getting there, and will continue to practice it from now until the EOG. I have faith in you. If you hang with me, we'll get you even better at it. Annotating a text would be nothing if you don't go ahead and highlight and mark the words and parts that you don't understand. If you don't go ahead and mark the words and parts that you don't understand, how in the world are you going to go back and look over the parts that you don't understand in order to ask someone, if you're able, in a non-testing situation, and ask for further clarity? Circle those words that you don't understand. Underline the parts that you underline whole passages or sentences that you want further clarification on. This will serve you well in group discussions, especially if you're reading something independently and then are supposed to come back with questions for your teacher. Mark things up, write things to the side. That way you have something to not only contribute, but I don't want you to stay confused. Remember our motto? The worst thing about making a mistake is being afraid to make one. And like I've always told you, it's okay to it's okay to be wrong, but it's not okay to stay wrong. Don't stay confused. Ask. Use the text details to form inferences. Remember what an inference is? An inference is taking what the text says, adding what you already know and that makes an inference. You guys have some beautiful brains in your head. So you are going to be able to take what you know with what the text says and come up with some wonderful inferences and draw some great conclusions. That way, you can draw some deeper meaning from whatever text that you are reading. And when you draw those conclusions, you're going to be able to answer almost any question that any test can ever throw at you. These are some of the symbols that we are going to use when annotating a text. A star is going to symbolize something important. Well, hey, didn't I already do that? Didn't Miss Thurston use a star symbol in her syllabus? I was already introducing you to some of those symbols. If I underline something, that's a key word or a detail that I want to go back and remember later. A check, I'm going to put a check by something that I understand, so that way I know, check, I've got it done. If I circle something, that is an unfamiliar vocabulary word. And I'm going to use that so I can know that I need to go back and look up that word later. A question mark is just that. I'm going to put a question mark by either a passage or an idea that I'm going to go back and talk about later. An exclamation part is something that surprised me, maybe a fact or a story or even a picture that I wasn't expecting. That is an affinity symbol. It's something that I made a connection with. Again, maybe an inference I drew. Maybe I found a fact that I made a connection to another text or a story that I read. So I'm going to use that infinity symbol. Whenever I make a connection with something that I've already learned in a passage I'm just now reading, I've achieved a higher order thinking skill. And therefore, I've deepened my comprehension of the text that I'm just now reading. Guys, you've then achieved higher level thinking. Words or comments. Any word or comment that I write on the side is just that. I am marking up my text to give myself deeper meaning and understanding that I can go back and take note of later. So we're going to use all of these symbols to help us annotate and draw deeper meaning from a text. And later on, Miss Thurston is going to make you bookmarks to help you with these. And I'm also going to make a poster to hang in the room that will help, also serve as an anchor chart for later on when we do more passages and annotate more passages with these symbols. Now what I'm going to do for you is I am going to model an annotating of a passage for you using a Connecticut Yankee in King Arthur's court. Now, this is only to be, any annotating is only to be done after you have read the passage one time and asked yourself, what is the main or central idea of this article? Now, I'm not going to discuss what I think the main idea of this article is because you've already written that down, one, on number 2 of your observation sheet, and we're going to discuss that on Thursday when I get back. So what you're going to do is on number 3 of your observation sheet, as I am going through this observation, or excuse me, I'm going through this annotating demonstration, you are going to be filling out the left-hand side of your book that says what I observe during this demonstration. Then on Thursday, you're going to discuss as a group what others observed during the demonstration, and you're going to find things that you missed during the demonstration. So the goal of this is you are going to make at least 5 observations during the demonstration. So I should see 5 bullet points, or number the left side of your book 1 through 5, however you want to do it. But I need 5 things you noticed during the demonstration on under number 3. So I will be checking that, and it is for a grade. Now, something else to keep in mind as I am doing this, I am going to be speaking as if you are not there. I am going to kind of do some metacognition, thinking about my thinking. So it's going to be as if I'm talking out loud, and just kind of let you inside my head. Yes, it is a dark and scary place. I know that. But I really kind of want you to see what it means to annotate an article. So just go on this ride with me, and we won't do it again. All right? So here we go. A Connecticut Yankee in King Arthur's court. Well, King Arthur's court. Well, isn't King Arthur's court from the medieval times? Something like 500 BC or 500 AD. And was Connecticut even thought of then? So how can a Connecticut Yankee be in King Arthur's court? I really didn't get that while I was reading the passage. And in this case, what do they mean by a Yankee? Someone who fought for the North in Civil War, or just someone from the North? I'm going to have to get clarification on that. Ooh, but I have a connection that I have made. I know who Mark Twain is. That is the same guy who wrote that banned book we were talking about in class the other day, Huckleberry Finn. So I have a connection to the author already. And he's also one of Miss Thurston's favorite authors, so I know I can talk to her about that. All right. So the first thing I need to do is number all of my paragraphs. So 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, I've numbered my paragraphs, so the next thing I need to do is go ahead and read. Well, I know that this is a first-person narrator because it says, I came across a curious stranger. So we are a first-person narrator, first-person point of view. So that helps out a lot. The conclusion that I can draw is that this person our narrator is talking about another character in the story. So it was in Warwick Castle that I came across the curious stranger. So that must be the other character that the narrator's talking about, the curious stranger. And that's an important detail, so I'm going to star it, who I am going to talk about. He attracted me by 3 things. His candid simplicity. Candid. That's a new vocabulary word. I'm going to go ahead and circle that because that's kind of weird. His candid simplicity, his marvelous familiarity with ancient armor. Why would somebody know so much about ancient armor? And the restfulness of his company, for he did all the talking. We fell together. I don't think they actually fell. It means that they must be walking together, as modest people will, in the tail of the herd, or group of people, okay, that was being shown through. And he at once began to say things which interested me. Oh, so he likes him. He at once began to say things which interested me. Okay. As he talked along, softly, pleasantly, flowingly, he seemed to drift away imperceptibly. Imperceptibly. That's a new vocabulary word. I'm going to go to circle that. I'm going to have to ask the teacher about that. Out of his world and time and into some remote era and old forgotten country. You know what? My grandpa used to do this. This reminds me of my grandpa, so here's a connection to me. This is my grandpa talking right here. My grandpa did this. He would talk and just drift in and out. It was really weird. All right, so I made a connection there. Out of his world and time and era and he so gradually wove a spell about me that he seemed to move among the specters and shadows. Wove a spell about me. Is he magical? Specter. What are specters? And shadows, and dust and mold gray of antiquity, holding speech with a relic of it. Well, that's a really... I'm going to have to stop there. I'm getting a little tired. All right, let's summarize. All right, let's stop there and summarize. So here's this guy. So he's a stranger. And he talks a lot. And okay, so he talks a lot, and he knows a lot. Knows about armor and relics. Wow. What are the chances that you would meet a stranger in a castle that knows a lot about armor and relics? Huh. I don't know. Whatever. Exactly as I would speak of my nearest personal friends or enemies, or my most familiar neighbors. He spoke of Sir Bedivere, Sir Bors de Ganis, Sir Lancelot of the Lake, Sir Galahad, and all the other great names of the Table Round. The Table Round. The Knights of the Round Table? Wow. And how old, unspeakably old and faded, and said just as one might speak of the weather or any other common matter. Wait a minute. Did this guy just seriously talk about the Knights of the Round Table as if he knew them? Spoke about Knights of Round Table. Now, I've got to round table. All right, I've got to write this down because according to my marks, I have to make notes. I have to make notes. I have to underline. I have to circle. Okay, I've been doing that. All right, got to keep going. Got to keep going. Got to keep going. You know about hold on. Transmigration of what in the world is transmigration of souls? Transmigration. All right. Trans. Trans means across. It is a prefix that means across. All right. Trans means across. Trans means across. And migration means to move. So trans means across, and migration means to move. To move, whoa. To move, souls move across. Why is this guy talking about souls moving? This guy is really weird. I hope our narrator runs for the hills. I said I had not heard of it. He was so little interested. Just as when people speak of the weather, that he did not notice whether I had made him any answer or not. There was half a moment's silence, immediately interrupted by the droning voice of the salaried cicerone. Salaried. To make a salary. To make money. To make money. So the salaried, the paid guide. Is it the paid worker? Is it the guy that they're ignoring? So this guy is talking like souls moving is something everybody should know about. And they're ignoring the guide. Ancient Hawerbeck, date of the 6th century, time of King Arthur and the Round Table, said to have belonged to the knight Sir Sagramore Le Desirous. Observe the round hole through the chainmail in the left breast. Okay, not really breast. That means chest. Can't be accounted for. Supposed to have been done with a billet since invention of firearms, perhaps maliciously by Cromwell's soldiers. Cromwell. Who the heck is Cromwell? I don't know who Cromwell is. Who is this? And who is maliciously? What does maliciously mean? I don't understand. All right, so to summarize. So there's a hole in the armor. All right, oops. There's a hole in the armor. And it was put there on purpose. And they're talking about moving souls. This is just getting really weird. My acquaintance my acquaintance smiled. Not a modern whoa, not a modern smile, but one that must have gone out of general use many, many centuries ago, and muttered apparently to himself, "Wit ye well, I saw it done. I did it myself." What? By the time I had recovered from the electric surprise of this remark, he had gone. The stranger claimed to have made the hole in the armor himself. How could someone from modern times, or at least when the story was written, lived during the medieval times, make a hole in armor? Dun, dun, dun. This is weird. Twain has a really warped mind. Okay, guys, by this time, you should have numbers 1, 2, and 1/2 of 3 done. When we come back on Thursday, I will give you the opportunity to get the other half of 3 done, and of course, do speak with your groups to do 4, 5, and 6. We will also get to practice with other passages to use these new skills that you have learned, as well as have a bookmark with these annotation marks as a handy reference. Put it in your interactive notebook and move on with life. Don't forget that you are to go to the library. I would love for you, if you have not finished your current SSR book, I want you to stick with it. Take the time to continue to read. If you are wanting another book, you are to resubmit your SSR choice. That should be very few of you. Further directions are there in Google Classroom for you, and spend this time really diving in. Block 2, don't forget that you will have some time to work on your projects, and they are still due on Friday. So I hope that you're putting in some good work, and I'm really excited to see these projects come to fruition. I'm really pleased with the progress that you have made so far. I will miss you guys, and I will see you on Thursday. Be good, and good luck.